Welcome back to my Blaster Master Zero Destroyer Mode guide and walkthrough. We are revisiting Area 2, and because I made a little oopsie, apparently all the dungeons in Area 2 are actually worth going into. This area, the residential area, does not have any filler dungeons, so egg on my face. But it doesn't really matter anyway, since traversing through Area 2 is really annoying, and I believe you need the hover or booster ability, depending on which one you like to use. I like using the booster because I feel it's more accurate. Like I said, even though it weighs a whole bar of meter, it's very handy. It essentially acts as an extra jump. Anyway, this dungeon, while this is where you normally get the, I think it's the Energy Breaker.
Energy Breaker!
The thing that protects your weapons from being downgraded as long as the shield is up. It does not work in Destroyer mode, but for whatever reason, you need to collect it in order to get a get the best ending. Now, apparently this actually does fill up all of your upgrades, which I didn't know. So, if you want to be senile, you could technically come back here before you head over to Area 7, or if you really want to be ballsy, come back before Area 8. However, backtracking in Area 8 is a fucking nightmare, so I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to use that in whatever way works for you, go right ahead. There are plenty of dungeons anyway that'll let you restock, slowly but surely. But anyway, now that we got that item down, I am actually going to go for the life upgrade next, which I believe is up here, which you can't get unless you use the aforementioned hover or booster. Now, of course, because I don't have any energy, I'm like, oh shit, those fucking green worms are going to get in my way. There's actually a red one that you find later who are much more aggressive, and they take a little more hits, I think. I believe you can use that move that lets you do like some sort of dash attack that actually does good damage to them. I don't think it actually hurts you, I'm not sure, but yeah, don't land into the mines. But since the ground is actually in your favor, you could, or actually, the terrain is in your favor, excuse me. You can actually shoot the mines above you, and for whatever reason, the mines actually don't shoot at you when you blow them up, which is weird. But anyway, use the terrain to your advantage, snipe all the mines, don't try to go through it. You're not playing Minesweeper, you don't have any flags, so just shoot them all. Get the life up. Now remember, your progress is not saved until you go inside a dungeon or get a checkpoint, so make absolutely sure you go for either one of those first. So you don't have to do this a whole endurance over. Notice that triple kill that just got there with the missiles. It's actually very cool. Triple kill. God, I miss Halo. At least when Bungie used to make them. They weren't perfect, but damn, they were very good in quality. Anyway, the boss of the optional bosses, which are the 5 little purple gloops of doom with the 2 dudes coming out of, that boss is really not that interesting. Now, it's not as bad as Drop Trappers, but it's just like, even in Destroyer mode, they just take a while because their weakness, which I'm going to be posting on the descriptions, because I'm mainly going to try to use the regular gun unless fights such as Z2017 or Photophage, depending on what version you're playing, is such nonsense in Destroyer mode that it's just not ideal to use the regular gun in them, since if that particular boss gets too many of them on screen at once, you're just going to get fucked. So I said, fuck it. I use the weakness against them, since it's it makes quick work of them as long as you have an itchy trigger finger. Now, as for this next dungeon, I believe this is the map, which I also get, and I'm also going to be grinding weapon upgrades once again, so I am going to be playing the Carnival music from the other game, which I wonder what that song is. It's actually from, I think it's Carnival, I believe. The Weird Video Games did a video about it quite a long time ago. It's actually very weird. It's that arcade game that has you shooting, it's essentially like a gallery, like in a real carnival where you shoot at targets, but except these targets, you hold the gun sideways like you a gangsta, except fucking gangsta's only if I wanksters. Thanks, Big Al. And you also, the birds actually come out of the target practice and actually fly towards you, like what the fuck? It just makes no sense. But anyway, collect the map because you have to. I'm pretty sure you have to. I would just collect it anyway. It doesn't really hurt, and plus it fills out the area anyway. So I am going to trim out me going back into the dungeon just to save just a little bit of time, because I still have to do Area 4, and I've only recorded up to the part where we did that. Now, Just to put out the old meme. Ah, shit, here we go again. Now, actually backtracking in this dungeon can be dangerous because of the turrets, which actually shoot in 2 different directions. They thankfully don't turn, but their patterns are surprisingly trolley, and I messed up quite a bit, so you're going to be seeing me retrying quite a bit, because I try not to get hit at all, and I think I messed up there, so I retry. I basically want to leave the area with, or if you're playing this as well, you want to leave the area with all the max gun level, and of course the 10 maxing out your sub-weapons as well, which I believe the first 2 you get up to 10, I think, or 3, and then you get other weapons that only go up to 5. Then you have the one big gun, or whatever you want to call it, where you call Sophia. You only get 1 use out of that, but for surprisingly, you can fill it up rather easily. But I actually got fucked over when I played it on PS4 because there is a dungeon that does not have any of the sub weapon pickups, and I really wanted to use it, but I kind of got fucked. So if I remember to look back at it, I might actually talk about it. But anyway, we've got the map, we upgraded our stuff, so now we're going to go after the, I believe we're going to go after the, shit, I have to look at the timeline. I don't quite remember which one we're going to. Yeah, I'm that terrible, but it's, we're definitely going to be going to one of these bosses. Which, the dungeons in this, I would say, are not as bad. Like, the purple goop is a little annoying, but you can get extra iframes, or the normal iframes when you go through it. But like I said when we went for Area 2 at first, you can risk losing your weapon upgrades to go through it quicker, which I really wouldn't recommend, especially if you're low on health. But if you don't really mind, since only your basic weapon's going to be effective anyway, it could be a viable tactic, I guess, but of course, if you're trying to do a no-hit run, which I would absolutely not recommend unless you're absolutely crazy, that may not work. But speaking of work, make sure you absolutely use the penetrator weapon, since it'll blow up the bricks or blocks in 1 hit, and it's very useful. I didn't do this when I was farming back in Area 3. I don't know why I didn't do that. But basically, these little fly things are going to be our raid boss. They group up. The fight takes a little while, but as long as you're using the penetrator, this fight is also kind of a joke. And I know I would usually try to use the standard weapon, but because the penetrator just does a lot of justice, and yes, I do believe this is the raid boss dungeon. It's not a raid boss dungeon, you fucking retard. Okay, whatever, shut the fuck up. Basically, for the trick of this fight, which does take a little time, but it's really not that hard. Just make sure you try to be accurate with your shots. You know, make sure that when the Bybay Legion lines up, you just shoot them with the penetrator. If you're quick enough, you should be able to take them out in maybe 1 to 2 shots if your shots are clean enough. Unfortunately, there is no aiming down sights in this game, so you're going to have to line up your shots manually like you had to do back in the day, but I believe if you don't take them out fast enough, there will be a lot of these fuckers swarming on screen. Now, the yellow ones are connected to the green ones, and I believe if you take out the white one, or I'm sorry, the white one, yeah, that sounds racist. No, if you take out the yellow one, the other ones will turn yellow, but it shouldn't really matter too much if you're just focusing your shot. You don't have to prioritize one or the other. Just make sure that, like I said, you just line up your shots. Like when they start to form the line, you just take them out a nice 1 clean swoop. You know, like when it gets like to this amount, you're kind of fucked, but they don't really do anything. Like, this is kind of bad news. It's like, oh shit, I fucked up, but just make sure you line up your shots, like I said, and this really shouldn't be too much of a problem. This is another really easy one. I would say this one is also easy, but I think the Genocide Lasers are probably the easiest raid boss because they don't really do anything. I mean, if you play extremely smart, which is not that hard to do, you will beat that fight almost every single time. This requires a little more effort since, at least in Destroyer mode, I mean, if you're playing on normal, you can just fucking use the wave gun and just, if you have a turbo mode especially, you can probably make mincemeat out of this. And again, the wave gun does absolutely wonders in turbo mode. It's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, once you line up your shots, you'll pretty much win. You'll get the ability. I don't know which one it is because I'm playing in Japanese, I forget. There might be a different rearrangement, but it's not that important, so it's not going to make Area 3 any easier, so I didn't really mind skipping these, but I think the only ability you get that you can use for Essential Gear is the energy barrier, which essentially blocks the little gears that come after you, but you still can't really use it against the boss itself, so... And since you don't have anything else besides the triple missiles, I just use that anyway, and like I said, you do have to come back here anyway to get some items, so it doesn't really matter anyway. We're going to be doing backtracking no matter what, but this is thankfully really the only time in the game that you're going to have to backtrack to this degree. Everything else, you're just going back through previous areas. I am going to make one exception in Area 5, and that is to actually save time, because there is a very known speedrunning trick with the turret that you can call Sophia in, and you can have it essentially blow anything that's on the screen, which is very useful. And you can actually use this to blow up a wall that's in the same room where the map is, except you can't have your shots go through. I believe some EX characters can actually exploit this, but with Jason, you're going to have to get the turret, and you don't get that until Area 6's optional boss, which I might actually go for, since it is extremely helpful in Destroyer mode. It absolutely makes mincemeat out of bosses, but my only problem, well, the only problem, that's not my problem, it's the game's problem. The only problem is that you only get one use out of it, and unless the enemy drops another one with some bosses that actually drop power-ups, you're not going to be able to use it a lot. And it is actually very useful against some bosses who you may not expect, but I'm not going to spoil that. But basically, once you get the turret mode, I would advise using that on a lot of the bosses, but I didn't really think to use it when I was playing on PS4. So for this guide, I'm going to try and experiment on what bosses work against it. Just make sure you have that one use before you try to use it, though, because if you don't, you're kind of fucked. And I may actually even use it during Area 9 on some of the bosses, because I fucking hate Area 9. It's like, I know you probably see me bitch and moan about fucking Area G's boss rush stage in 02, but at least that one, that is actually part of the game. You have to go through no matter what, but at least in Blastomaster 0, you do technically get credits after beating the game, so you could feasibly say you got the bad ending, but you don't even get that in 02. It's just like, oh, you have to get the MacGuffin to continue. But in 01, there is actually a any percent where you just get the bad ending, which is kind of dumb, since Area 9 is actually worth going through. It's just, it is kind of like, oh shit, there's another one. Anyway, we got Gizalarva, or Jezalar. I don't think it's Jeza. That sounds very disgusting. Anyway, this boss is really not that hard at all, despite it being Destroyer mode. The only thing you have to really worry about is when the shots are going, but because the boss only aims in one direction when you fire, just go behind it and you'll be safe almost every time. Like, this boss is just a joke. It's like the Drop Trappers of Area 2, Residential Area, but this boss, there's two of them, and I keep going in front of it for some reason. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What in fuck's name are you doing? Anyway, this boss isn't really that hard. Just wait for the things up here, then if you're in front of it, just go behind it or side of it and just shoot at them. The goop will hurt you, but they do go away after a while, so it doesn't like flood the screen, although if it did, it'd probably make the fight a little bit ridiculous. I don't quite know if they stay longer on Destroyer mode, but it really doesn't matter. This boss is kind of a joke. Apparently you can use the sub-weapons to lure them out of their little hidey hole, but I didn't do this since I didn't really know about it, and I figured I'd try to shoot it right when the boss said to see if anything happens. Apparently it does, and I checked the wiki. Apparently you can use this to get some extra damage, which is cool, but I didn't really think to do it. Then discuss this fight is really not that hard anyway. You're just essentially just playing a waiting game and just somehow skillfully dodging its very predictable attacks. Like, seriously, this fight is... It's not, I wouldn't say, as bad as Drop Trappers, because it does go by a little faster, which is why you're not going to see me edit it, but it's like... This fight is really not that hard, and part of my problem with Destroyer mode is that the bosses have a lot of health, which makes some of these fights drag on a little too long. Now, when there's only one left, it's not that hard, although you may not get a chance to shoot all of them. Like, this boss is also reused in Area 9 in one of the dungeons, where you also fight Hardshell, or whatever it's called in Japanese. I didn't look it up yet, nor did I go into boss rush to find out. But basically, this boss is actually reused twice. And there's like two rooms that have this boss. One of them lets you continue, the other one doesn't. And you know you went to the right one if you went in there. So they essentially padded out this boss for like no real reason. And I really have no idea why. Like, what is the point of having an optional boss that... Or not optional boss, an optional room with an optional boss that's absolutely there for no reason besides to waste your time. It's like, what the fuck were they thinking? I am so glad that 02 does not pull this crap, because I would have been extremely pissed off. But anyway, we're done with this area. This is a little shorter, I apologize, but there's really not much to talk about with Area 2. It's kind of cool, but for a residential area, you don't really see a lot of people here. But then again, I guess with the game's story, it does kind of make sense. We don't actually see any buildings or anything, so who knows what this area's been like when you, before the mutants took over. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. God, that was a great show. Except for the Great Ravine. One of my, someone told me about that episode, and I didn't really remember it back then. I think I might have, I didn't remember, but when they would tell me about it, I was like, oh my god, it sounds terrible. Thankfully, it's like in its first season, so, after that, the show, I think, went to, really good heights, but, I've heard Legend of Korra was pretty bad, but I may watch that, I may even watch that one day, just see if it's actually that bad, see which either Netflix or Hulu has the complete series, because I know that Sonic X is on Netflix, but there's only 2 seasons, whereas Hulu has all seasons, season 3, and there's also both the 4Kids dub and the Japanese dub. And the fucking song Gotta Go Fast is legitimately the most autistic thing I've ever heard. The Japanese theme isn't much better, but it's at least kinda cool. Japanese usually sounds almost better in every way, and not as annoying. I can finally understand why people tell me that English subs are kind of annoying in fighting games, especially Soul Calibur 2. Which, if you're playing the Xbox 360 version, or PS3, you're kind of fucked. Anyway, enough rambling. And the next part, we're going to go through Area 1, which don't really have to do a lot. And then we're also going to do Area 4 in the same area, since there's really not a lot to talk about in Area 1's revisiting. So, I'll see you in the next part. Thanks for watching, and you take care.